each other through it. Come on and see, good movement draws good movement.
Welcome to Good Movement Draws Good Movement, the podcast where farmers, ranchers, and rural folks can grow relationally through awareness, understanding, and effective communication. Hey, it's T. I'm your host, and I, along with my guests, will be covering topics related to drawing good movement. Things like self and social awareness, brain science, positive psychology, extending grace, and so much more. We'll share tools that can help you understand why you are the way you are, why others are the way they are, and how you can use that to step out of self-told lies with grace and compassion to draw good movement in conversations, relationships, and life in rural America. Let's go draw good movement. A little note before you get started into this episode today. My guest Danielle and I, we talk openly about suicide, addiction, and her experience with those things and the realities of grieving in rural life. If you are not in a place to hear that today, please give yourself permission to push pause. Welcome back to the Good Movement Draws Good Movement podcast. Today, I have Danielle Kruse on with us. I met Danielle back in September at the Farm Wives Club event hosted by our friend Kylie Epperson. Danielle was on the panel that weekend, and the panel was made up of women who had walked some really hard things and had come through on the other side. And when I heard Danielle's story, I immediately knew that I wanted to have her on the podcast to share her story with us. Danielle is from Northwest Iowa. She grew up a farm girl, earned a degree in ultrasound, married a farmer, and together they welcomed 3 kids. When her husband died 3 years ago, she chose to continue farming alongside her late husband's parents, giving her kids the chance to grow up connected to agriculture and keeping the legacy of the operation moving forward. Danielle says navigating the past 3 years has been challenging, rewarding, and everything in between. Welcome, Danielle. I'm so excited to have you here.
Hi, I'm glad to be here.
Okay, so I just gave the formal bio of Danielle, but would you go ahead and tell us a little bit more about you?
Yeah, I think you did great. So I'm not sure much more I can add, but yeah, I live in Northwest Iowa, born and raised. I actually live around 5 miles from where I grew up, so didn't go too far away. But raised a farm girl. I did all the things on the farm with my dad and my mom and my sister. We baled hay, we power washed, we drove tractors, we did all the things. And then we were big into 4-H and learned a lot of things with that. I went to Northwestern in Orange City, Iowa, and got a bachelor's degree in biology health professions and played basketball. And then I still felt like I didn't want to become a doctor or a chiropractor or any of those degrees I could have had, but I chose to do ultrasound. It was a 2-year program down in Des Moines. And then in the midst of that, I got engaged to a farmer and decided to move back to Northwest Iowa and farm with him, or be a farm wife, I should say, raise our kids here. And yeah, we got married and we had 3 kids, and I worked full time off the farm. I brought them meals to the field, but I wasn't really involved in the day-to-day because I was working off the farm and raising kids. When a couple of my kids got older, I decided to go part-time, so I was only working 2 or 3 days a week off the farm, but I was still not doing too much on the farm, but maybe a little more combine driving and a little more maybe helping get pigs in every now and then, but nothing major. And then, yeah, he passed away 3 years ago in a couple weeks, which is crazy. And then I decided right after he passed away that I was going to try to continue to farm with his parents. And yeah, like you said, to continue what they had started and also to give my kids opportunity for someday to maybe want to continue this. So we raise corn and soybeans, and we also own a sow unit. So we actually own the sows that are having the babies, and then we buy the babies and then feed them out and sell them to a local packing plant not too far away.
Okay, so it's kind of crazy that at the time we're recording this, it will be a little while before it comes out. By the time we're recording, it's not too long ahead of the anniversary of your husband's death. And honestly, learning about that is part of the reason why I wanted you to come on the podcast, because I think that it is something that is more common than we know and something that I would like to shed more light on. So if you feel comfortable, or as you feel comfortable, would you talk to us a little bit more about his death?
Yeah. I, going back years ago, like we first got married, life was great. We had 3 kids. Little did I know I was living in kind of this naive bubble, but my husband had a drinking problem that he kind of hid from everybody. We didn't drink very much in our home, but he is a farmer and makes his own hours and could kind of drink whenever he kind of wanted to, per se, and hide it from everybody. Because of his drinking, it made him make a lot of poor choices. And that kind of caught up to him. And I decided to stand up for myself and kind of not put up with some of that stuff anymore, because it was affecting myself and it was affecting our kids. And he had to decide. Did he want to change? Did he want to be better? I didn't put him on an ultimatum, but it was kind of like, buddy, you got to figure this out. I can't change you. And I realized that. And ultimately, I don't think he could kind of stand up for what he had done and even admit to that to me or to his family or to friends or anybody. And so I think ultimately that made him decide to take his own life. I'm very glad I don't have any guilt when it comes to that. I wish things were different. I absolutely wish he was here. I wish I could have helped him. But ultimately, I did try, and a lot of people tried, and I hate that he made that decision, but I can't change it. So
He was hiding the drinking, but what was it like leading up to that? Like, did he show you any signs that he was struggling?
Not really. And I think right now, mental health in especially agriculture is being talked about. I do think there was stresses from the farm, but I don't think he was drinking due to those stresses. I think it was just his habit, his addiction. Leading up, again, I was very naive to it until some things came to me right before I found out I was pregnant with my 3rd. Some things came to head and it was like, oh crap, this is a big deal and this is real. And he's living not a different life, but it was a side of him that I didn't really see every day. He was really good at hiding it. Again, I was very naive to it. I probably should have caught more signs than I did when it was going on. But I live in the good. And sometimes I don't think I was seeing the bad for when it was bad.
And he didn't come share any of it with you. It was all you found out.
Yeah. And I got to be a really good investigator, kind of. He was really good at hiding it. But yeah, he never had an OWI. He never got in trouble, per se. He got out of some trouble. But no, he never came to me and wanted help when I made him get help. He maybe tried for a little bit, but then there was always an excuse of not wanting to continue not drinking, actually.
We recently had a guest on, Will Hudson, and he is someone who struggled with alcohol addiction and has come through on the other side. And he talks about how good he got at hiding it from his wife and just how much shame there was.
Mm-hmm.
That was unbearable for him. So it caused him to hide it. And also the shame did not help his drinking.
Right. Absolutely. And I think Javin got really, he knew he was making bad choices. I know deep down he didn't want to make any of these choices, but he didn't have a clear head. And I do think the drinking probably altered his mental well-being and mental health to continue to not make good choices. But also, I always say he kept digging a hole that got too deep for him to crawl out of. And he had so many people that would have been willing to help him, but he chose not to go to many of them, and he chose to keep very private. And if somebody would try to come talk to him, it was always like, mind your own business. I don't need help. Move on. And so he was really, really good when he was good, but when he was not good, he wasn't good.
Yeah. I just did a poll over the weekend about asking for help. And when you were talking about how many people who are willing to help him, the number of responses that I got from people about why they don't ask for help that said, I don't ask for help because I don't want to be a burden. And I have asked for help before and I was let down. And so it's just like, even when you have a fairly clear head, sometimes asking for help is really hard. And then where you have whatever you've got going on, plus you're numbing it with alcohol, I can't imagine how much harder that makes it all.
Right. Like his visitation was 5 hours long. There was so many people that came and so many people were like, I wish I would have known. And I'm like, I wish I would have too. Like never expected him to take his own life. I thought we could tackle this and get better together kind of, or even separate. Like I never thought that he would choose to not be here. And that frustrates me. I mean, I don't have any closure to that. I don't know where his mind was, but it comes down to like, I think shame. And I don't think he could have admitted his wrongs to people that really cared about him.
You brought up closure. I am learning that closure is a myth. There's actually a book called The Myth of Closure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because it's not a thing.
Right.
Like, even if you can fully understand it, it still doesn't take away the hurt and the pain fully.
Right. And he never left me a note or anything. And some people, my therapist was like, do you want to find one? And I'm like, I don't know. I don't know if it would bring closure. I think it maybe would answer some questions, but I think there'd still be a lot of questions that I'd have that there's no answer to. And that's hard in itself. But again, I feel good that I don't have any guilt about it. I mean, there's times where I could go down that rabbit hole a little bit, but ultimately he made that choice, and a very selfish choice. And I'm angry a lot, but I have 3 kids and that need me to keep going. And so I can't really be angry, actually. Like I can get pissed at him for a moment and then, oh, some kid needs me or something needs to be done. So you just have to keep going.
So after he passed, you chose to stay and farm with his in-laws. Was that an easy transition or decision for you to make? Or what did that look like?
So he died on a Sunday, and that week is kind of a blur, but I remember one of our friends at John Deere came to my house and gave his sympathies and pretty much was like, I remember it was my father-in-law and myself and him. And he goes, we will help you in whatever capacity that you need. You know, it was the end of November, so it's not like we were in a season of planting or harvesting, but you're always getting ready for the next season. And so he just said, we will help you in whatever way. And I said, well, without even talking to my father-in-law, I just said, well, I would like to try to continue the farm. And many people say they weren't surprised by hearing that I was going to farm or to take over, because if anyone was going to do it, they say I was the one who would do that. So I don't think my in-laws were surprised either. I guess we've never really talked about that. And also now it's like, would I have made a different choice, 3 years later? I don't know. The transition's been great, actually. Like that first like month, that December in the world of farming is a lot of tax appointments and bank appointments. And how are you sitting? Do you need to prepay? Do you need to hold anything off? Then we throw in a death and it's a whole new like, oh crap, there's a lot that needs to be done right away. And I would have had no idea that I needed to go to the lawyer and try to get some of those things figured out. But thankfully, my in-laws were like, we need to go meet with them because your whole tax planning changes when you have a death. And when you leave a tax appointment or a lawyer appointment and their head is in their hands and they're like, this is messy. And I'm like, oh, great. great. This is not going
Thank
well.
you. I did not know it was messy.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's messy in the fact that like Javin and I farmed our own ground and my in-laws farm their own ground, and then we share equipment, and then we own the sow unit together. And so it's messy in just who owns what and whose name is on what and ownership of what. And but thankfully, my in-laws and I had a really good relationship going into that, but it turned into even more like they are very willing to have these hard conversations with me for the most part. And I think sometimes they don't realize, or we all don't realize what it would have said if I would have said, no, I don't want to farm. What would that have looked like? I don't know, because really the farm has continued seamlessly, except Javin's not here. But I have just stepped into that role, and my father-in-law has taken a lot more on his plate. My husband had been doing more and more with the pigs, and I don't really do anything with the pigs. And I try not to feel guilty about that because I have a house to maintain and I have 3 kids' schedules to maintain, and I can't quite do it all, even though sometimes I feel like I could be doing more.
Mm-hmm. And you ultrasound.
Yes, I go to that job too. No, so really it's gone well. I say my support team behind me is why I have succeeded. Where we get our seed from, they had my planter before they upgraded, and so they were able to walk around with me. They were able to come plant that first day with me. One of them rode with me all day, and walked behind me and dug for seed all day. John Deere has been great. My seed chemical guys have been great. Because of the people I have around me, that's why I have done as well as I have. I mean, I haven't done perfect by any means, but I have had 3 crops go in the ground, and we've successfully had 3 harvests that have been as good as they can. So
you've been 3 full plantings and 3 full harvests.
Yeah, which is kind of crazy. Like, I never expected me to be in this role, but I feel like I've taken it on the best I can. There's different seasons of life where just during harvest, I barely put my kids to bed. My mother-in-law was here nearly every single night, but she loves it. My kids love it. They get in their own routine and it goes well. I mean, my kids are so resilient. Like, they are doing amazing, which I think makes us all do good as well. Of course, they miss their dad. They bring him up a lot, but there are very few tears. There are very few, like, I wish he was here. And I don't know why that is. I don't know if lucky is the right word.
You said you went to a therapist. Did you also send the kids to some therapy? I feel like you said that on the panel, but
Yeah. I had started therapy probably like 6-ish months before he passed away because things were not good. And I needed some support, kind of making some decisions as how I was going to continue on with my marriage and life. And so thankfully I had started. And so I was supposed to meet with him the Monday after he passed away, but then I waited a week, or I was able to reschedule for the next week and just go visit with him. And he's like, holy cow, like, none of us could have expected that turn of events. But then in that same office, there was a children's therapist that was able to see my kids. They kind of got kicked out maybe a year-ish ago because they are doing so well. And they wanted to just talk to her about like March Madness and picking teams. And she affirmed to me that she's like, your kids are doing amazing. And there are going to be some big questions. They were 4, 6, and 8 when he died, and they probably don't know what to ask. They only know that there was an accident. I know probably deep down, the older 2 maybe knew that the tension in our house, you could probably feel it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I tried to keep them out of discussions that Javin and I had, but I don't know if it's my calm presence that just has continued, that they really are doing amazing. They are doing so well in school. They haven't asked any big questions. I also don't think they like to see me sad sometimes. So maybe they don't ask, but I try to keep the door open. I have thought to myself, I'm like, I should just schedule another visit for them, even like twice a year, just to check in, because my kids already know that therapy isn't bad. Like, there's no negative connotation to that. They're like, oh, yeah, we can go hang out with Katie. But also, I know how well they're doing. But also, my daughter is now 11. I would hate for her to hear things about their dad, not from me, but it's that I need to figure out how and when and how much do I share with them. And I haven't done that yet. So,
Obviously, what you have to share with them is huge,
right.
literally life altering.
Yeah.
But it's always a hard thing to know when to tell kids, what to tell kids, because they do know. Like, they're so good at reading our energy.
Yeah.
They're so intuitive. And also what's age appropriate. Like, that's a hard thing as a parent myself. That's a hard thing to navigate, is like how and when and where.
Right. Like, I found my husband. Thankfully, the kids were not with me. But when I got back to my house, my sister had came, and before I even walked into my house, I was in my garage with her, and I'm like, what do I tell them? Like, this is something they'll remember forever. Now, will they? Because they were so young, but also you can't like have a second chance at saying that their dad passed away. Like, how much do I say? What do I say? And it was right after Thanksgiving, and there were tears from them, and my daughter cried right away, and she was like, "But I just bought him a Christmas present," and it was an Iowa State cup. But to her, then she went and ripped it open and showed it to all of us. But yeah, it's that next step now is like, yeah, what do you share? How do you share? What's age appropriate? I don't know. So we got to work on that, but we'll figure it out, I guess.
I want to go back to something that you said when you were talking about making the decision to stay and work with your in-laws. And you said the John Deere guy was there, and you just said, I'm going to farm. Like, I think there's something to that you didn't think about it.
Right.
You just like, from the body, I'm going to stay and farm.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of times we, especially in agriculture, just get so good at ignoring our body. But it sounds like you didn't do that then. You just said, I'm going to farm.
Yeah. And did I know what I was getting myself into? Probably not. I hadn't gone to very many bank meetings with him, tax appointments with him, and nothing that it's not like they weren't including me, but also between his mom and his dad and him, like, they coordinated their schedules to go to those things with. And I was working at the hospital, and sometimes it just didn't work for me to go. It's not like they were leaving me out, but I had never really gone. And so, yeah, that first month of like sticker shock a little bit of how much dollars are on the table, and so much I didn't know. Like, a lot of my mother-in-law does all the books. And so a lot of times my husband would open the mail, get a pile together, bring to her, and I didn't see most of it. And I remember one of those first few days, I opened a letter and I'm like, Joyce, I have no idea what this is. And she goes, well, I have no idea what it is. And I remember coming up to my bedroom and shutting my door, and I'm like, just sobbing. And I was like, if she doesn't know what this is, how the heck am I going to figure out what this is, And so there was a lot of that. And yeah, again, did I know what I was getting myself into? No. Do I regret it? No. Would our life be different? I mean, it is different. And I don't know. I don't know why I really made that decision. Again, I did not talk to anybody about it. I did not think that discussion was going to come up that day. But I kind of just, probably deep down, I knew that I could, and that I wanted to for my in-laws, but also my kids.
Probably hadn't even thought about, because you said it was like within the week after he passed.
Yeah, it was like 2 days after.
You hadn't had time to think about a lot then at that point.
So was I probably naive to what decision I just made? Probably. But I don't know, it kind of led the course for the next coming weeks as well, because, we walked into that lawyer too, and he was like, well, how are we going to kind of, probably not in his terms, but dissolve Javin's operation? And my father-in-law was like, well, Danielle's going to take over. And it was just so matter of fact with all of them. A lot of them were surprised, but it really didn't surprise my in-laws or myself on what we were going to do.
I think you might have mentioned, but remind me, your relationship with your in-laws prior to your husband's passing was good then? Like you guys were tight before that? Or have you gotten closer in these last 3 years?
I would say we've always been close per se, but there was always, my husband was the one dealing with them every day. I felt loved, and like my kids were loved by them, but I didn't have as many like daily interactions with them. So that has changed. I have only felt love and support from them, especially my father-in-law. We have had some really kind of hard conversations about maybe what was going on and how much they knew. And again, I kept a lot tucked inside. I did not tell anybody when things were not good. And so many, many people were very surprised. But I kind of was an open book right away and just was trying to be truthful and honest, because I can't imagine the conversations the community was having maybe about myself and Javin. But if I was just honest right away, then I knew that would trickle out. And I probably care a little too much about what people think, but also after something like that happens, you kind of have to let that go. But what I could control was my honesty and what I was willing to share and let people hear the truth from me.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think I didn't really answer your question, but I do think our relationship I have told them that I feel like their daughter, even though I'm not their daughter. I sometimes think I'm probably closer to them than my own parents, and we all live within 15 miles of each other. But there is just that we have to have conversations. A lot of people in the agriculture world don't want to talk about the succession plans or even this purchase or this decision we have to make. But it's kind of like we are very open with each other, and I've never felt like attacked, or I don't know. I've just felt very loved and supported and part of their team, and I've never felt like that I'm an outsider. But that's also tricky when it comes to what does the next 5-10 years look like, because they are in their upper 60s and I am not the daughter. And the daughter is not a part of the farm, but she lives on a farm that all of her equipment is stored at. But it's a little tricky right now. They're willing to have the conversations, but it's really hard for them to make the decisions on how it impacts, especially the kids and their daughter, because I am not the daughter.
I just, I can't get over how, when you were talking at Farm Wives Club about working with your in-laws after your husband had taken his own life, I was just in awe of that story, because that's not the norm. That's not the story you hear.
Right.
Specifically, daughters-in-law with farm in-laws or ranch in-laws, agriculture in-laws.
Right.
And so I was just blown away that you guys went through this extremely hard, life-altering event and have a great relationship and work together in agriculture.
Right. I know. And I mean, there's sometimes where they drive me crazy. I always think my mother-in-law can be sometimes harsh to some other people, but I have never felt that for 1 ounce. She can be snippy at my father-in-law, and she'll turn and look at me and explain the exact same thing, such in a different way. So I have always felt very appreciative of that. My father-in-law and I just feel like we work well together. I hope I have lessened his stress a little bit just by how I'm willing to have conversations or willing to help out. I think father-son relationships, especially in the ag world when you're working together. I think there was always friction with that. I know there's probably some friction on certain things between us, maybe in season, like, oh, I wish he would have told me that, or I wish he would be doing this. But it's more of those little things and not big things. And I've also learned I can't take some of his comments because he's been doing this forever. And it's not an attack to me. It's just how he's always done it. And maybe I'm trying to do it slightly different. And we have to work through that together.
A mutual understanding.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
So you still ultrasound.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about how that works with being a farmer.
Yeah. So again, I had gone part-time prior to Javin's death, and I have been told that my mother-in-law said to some of my coworkers, don't let her quit, because I do think they see how much I enjoy going to work, and I think they see the benefits that I do get. And so I have always had that support, especially from who I'm farming with, to continue the off the farm job.
So she told your coworkers don't let you quit after Javin passed.
Right.
Okay.
Because I think it'd be very easy to say, oh, I'm just going to farm and quit my hospital job. But I think, again, they see the benefit or how much I enjoy it. And so they were so good after he died. Again, I only worked 2 days a week, and then there was a lot of snow that first winter. And so I had like a whole month off after Javin died, but it was such a blessing too. It's just how it kind of works out. I mean, it's a very small, rural, 25-bed hospital. And I always think our doctors don't act like doctors. Very few of them wear their white coats. I probably have half of them in my phone. And right after Javin died, there was many texts saying, hey, we're thinking of you. And when I would get back, even now, like they'll stop in the hall and say, how did harvest go? Like, why are you here? Shouldn't you be in the combine? Like, I have always felt very loved and supported there. It is 45 minutes away from where I live, so it is a little bit of a commute, but I have worked there almost 15 years already, and they have just been so gracious. During the spring, they have allowed me to take 6 weeks off. I don't have the PTO for that, but they work with me. We're kind of overstaffed, so I try to be flexible during other times of year and maybe work another day or so for them to give me that time off. Now, this year I was able to plant in 3 weeks, so I went right back to work, and a coworker had surgery, so we just kind of figure it out. And in the fall, I work 1 day a week. It gets me out of the combine for a little bit, which I think is okay. Otherwise, it gets to be long days, one after the other. And it also allows my sister-in-law to run the combine for that day. It kind of gives her that time, which she did that when Javin was alive too. So that's good. And yeah, I think it's one thing that didn't change after Javin died because so much of my world did. And so it's kind of that constant. I do think I'm really good at my job. So I enjoy going. I can leave the kids and the farm and the house for a day and just go serve other people and do a good job.
When you were describing the environment at the hospital, I was like, that's also not something that you hear all the time.
No. And even where I live, Northwest Iowa, Orange City is a hospital I work at, and it is a very small Dutch community, but I can tell nearly every patient exactly where I live, and I don't have to worry about it. I do baby ultrasounds, but lots of other ultrasounds as well. And, almost everybody shows up for their appointments. All their babies are loved and cared for. Nobody really cares about the gender either way, but it's fun. It's a really cool and unique place to work. And besides of how I feel when I go to work, it is benefits.
Mm-hmm.
I'm part-time, but I am still able to get health insurance and dental, and I have life insurance through them. We have IPERS, which is when like the city of Orange City owns a hospital. So it's a retirement fund for the state of Iowa. So I feel like I get a lot, and I just sign like 2 papers every December, and all of that's taken care of. I think if I would leave that job and have to find health insurance myself or dental, I don't know. I know I could, but I think it's just one like less thing that I have to worry about when I know it's done and taken care of.
Mm-hmm. So the benefits are like twofold. You feel great going to work because the people are awesome and it's a safe space and a great environment, and you have benefits. And let's be honest, in this day and age, benefits are a pain in the rear.
Right. Absolutely.
Okay, well, I just want to say thank you again for coming on the podcast and sharing your story. Would you share, we'll put it in the show notes too, but will you share where people can find you on the interwebs if they would like to connect?
Yeah, I'm Danielle Kruse. The last name is Kruse. I'm on Instagram. I think it's DL Kruse. I am on TikTok. I think it's Danielle Lee Kruse. I don't post very much on any platform, but it is kind of fun to do things once in a while and to share what we're doing.
And again, we will have the links in the show notes. And with that, until next time, draw good movement. Thanks so much for tuning in. I'm so grateful for you. If you found value in this episode, I'd love for you to share with others who might also benefit from tuning in. Share by word of mouth, send it in a text, take a screenshot and post it on social media, or share however you prefer. And if you haven't already, hit the follow or subscribe button so you never miss an episode. Until next time, draw good movement.